And good evening tonight from Turkey. The horrific scene we witnessed here today, 5 days after the earthquake, the aftershocks. An apartment building came crashing down today, and what we witnessed at the scene. But we are going to begin tonight with the breaking news back in the U.S. We have learned from the Pentagon tonight that an F-22 has now shot down another high-altitude object flying over U.S. territory, discovered over Alaska. They say about the size of a small car flying at 40,000 feet. They say it was at an altitude that might interfere with civilian aircraft. President Biden ordering it shot down. Tonight, the Pentagon says they still don't know the object's capability, purpose, or origin. The Pentagon confirming for the second time in a week that it was an F-22 that fired the missile that took the object down, the same type of aircraft used on that suspected Chinese spy balloon. This new unmanned object, much smaller than the spy balloon, and of course there are many questions tonight. What was it, and what was it carrying? Alaska Senators Lisa Murkowski and Dan Sullivan were briefed after the sighting was confirmed. Senator Sullivan saying, quote, he strongly encouraged it be shot down. Well, tonight the search is now underway for the pieces of this object and for clues as to who it belonged to and what they were up to. ABC's Chief Global Affairs Correspondent Martha Raddatz leading us off with late reporting from Washington tonight.
The unidentified object, about the size of a small car, was first spotted in the skies over Alaska last night. The military sending up fighter jets to check it out. And this afternoon, the commander-in-chief giving the order, shoot it down.
Do you have anything to say about the object shot down over Alaska, Mr. President?
The Pentagon still knows little about the object. It is now sitting on the Arctic ice, waiting to be recovered. A senior official describes it to ABC as cylindrical and silverish gray.
The object was flying at an altitude of 40,000 feet and posed a reasonable threat to the safety of civilian flight. Out of an abundance of caution and at the recommendation of the Pentagon, President Biden ordered the military to down the object. And they did.
The military says the object was unmanned, and we are told it appeared to be floating, not being steered or propelled like the Chinese spy balloon. No word on who sent this object up or what it was doing.
We do not know who owns it, whether it's state-owned or corporate-owned or privately owned. We just don't know.
It comes less than 2 weeks after that giant Chinese spy balloon entered American airspace, also over Alaska. The military waited to shoot that down until it had flown across the country and out to sea. Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski outraged.
To me, the clear message to China is we got free range in Alaska.
The White House argues today's situation is completely different, that where the Chinese spy balloon was flying 60,000 feet above ground, the object shot down this afternoon was just 40,000 feet in the air, and therefore, they say, posed a threat to civilian aircraft.
I can tell you that the President doesn't regret the way that we handled the first balloon.
Today, the military announcing they have located the massive technology bay from the Chinese spy balloon at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean.
So let's get right to Martha Raddatz live in Washington tonight. And Martha, the Pentagon now looking obviously to recover this unmanned object shot down above Alaska. Where is it and how soon do they think they can get to it?
David, the military has C-130s, Black Hawk and Chinook helicopters on the way right now to the location, and then they will determine how best to recover it, depending on the thickness of the ice in the area.
I checked their...
Hey,
Dad!
So hopefully, David,
I checked their time. Do you know what time it is in Turkey over there?
Martha Raddatz leading us all
It's
here.
2 a.m.
Martha, thank you. Back here
Very
in
late
Turkey
over there.
tonight into the very unsettling scene.
It's very
we witnessed
late
here
over
today.
there in Turkey.
Now 5 days after the earthquake and the aftershocks and
Mom!
explosives are bringing a new wave of horror. A 5.0 aftershock bringing an apartment building down.
Can you
And
stop
a short
teasing?
time after, witnessing the frantic search for survivors for hours today. It continues deep into the night. Crews frantically digging through the rubble, halting everyone, calling for silence, and shouting to anyone who could be in that pile of concrete. Tonight, the growing death toll across Turkey and Syria, now more than 23,000 dead. And there are desperate calls for humanitarian help. Wow, that scene tonight, the desperate effort after yet another apartment building came crashing down, this time because of aftershocks. We are told an apartment building just came down here. Reports of a 5.0 aftershock here in the town of Osmaniye. It is the second wave of terror here in the earthquake zone. The tremors, the aftershocks felt in so many communities here. Buildings already lined with deep cracks from the earthquake. And this one just came down. The search and rescue team is already here, filling buckets with debris and sending them out. Pulling out concrete by hand, hoping to get to anyone who might be inside. First responders stand at the ready with gurneys. They tell me that this building came down less than an hour ago, and one of the many aftershocks being felt throughout this region. And you can see they're trying to lift a giant piece of concrete here to search beneath it to see if anyone survived this. Search teams frantically digging through the debris. You can see they're now handing pieces of concrete to each other, forming a human chain to try to get to anyone who might be beneath this more quickly. They bring in heavy machines to lift the concrete floors that have come down, flattening the building, hoping to get underneath. It's just incredible to think that 5 days after this earthquake, this is like you're calling for silence. It is a haunting moment, playing over and over again here. Workers in their helmets, their ears to the concrete, listening for anyone under the rubble. We hear the plea from a rescue worker to anyone buried beneath who might hear him.
I can hear you!
We're actually saying to anyone who could be buried under the rubble there, we are here to save you. Can you hear my voice? They did not get a response. They are clearing out what used to be apartments just a couple of hours ago. They toss out a mattress, a rug, belongings now destroyed. And watching it all, the neighbors who live nearby, who fear loved ones lost again. The mayor here, now 5 days after the earthquake, telling us this shows just how much help they need. How important is it, the help from the United States and other countries right now? He says any help is welcome. Any help is very welcome for us. We wish you and your people well. And right there in the crowd, we meet a man who lived in the building that came down. Mehmet says he knows his brother, who also lived there, got out. And he tells us of others who lived there, including Syrian refugees who lived on the first floor. In the first floor, Syrian refugees were living on the first floor? Yes, there were Syrian refugees, he tells us. It is impossible to imagine the Syrian refugees escaping war and then living through this. He says after the earthquake, their faces looked terrified. They said it was worse than the war. He believes they weren't there this morning, but like everyone, he now waits for confirmation. And suddenly, again, hands in the air, a call for silence. And watching it all, this young woman, Fatma, a neighbor. 5 days after this earthquake, you're all still living in fear from these tremors and aftershocks? She tells us we have all been shaken deep down. We cannot sleep. There is always a worry during the night. We are living in fear and terrified. I'm sorry you're living in fear. She hopes, as everyone here does, for a miracle. It's what keeps people going. Tonight, 70 miles south of here, in Hatay, the story of a 10-day-old baby rescued after nearly 90 hours underneath the rubble, taken into an ambulance, wrapped in a thermal blanket. His mother was saved too, carried away on this stretcher. And the story of this man rescued after 108 hours under the rubble. The teams carefully carrying him down on the stretcher to a waiting ambulance. And at the moment, the rescuers overcome, hugging one another. One more life saved. While back at the scene of that apartment building that came down today, it is now nightfall, and we watch as rescuers use their flashlights to peer into the cracks, the spaces between the blocks of concrete. You can see they're clearing away another floor here. Hours have gone by, and still no sign of life. But the search and rescue team remains at the top of the pile here, and soon they'll go in again. And everywhere we look, the signs of life halted. the brown shoe, the mattress, the toy bear. And tonight, the White House says the U.S. is ramping up assistance to both Turkey and Syria. Two of our most highly trained search and rescue teams are here, nearly 200 personnel with specialized equipment here in the region tonight. It doesn't come a moment too soon because tonight the crush of need is growing at the hospitals and, of course, the homeless here. The humanitarian crisis now unfolding. And here's our chief foreign correspondent, Ian Pannell, tonight.
Tonight, a race against time to treat the victims of the earthquake. Helicopters ferrying the wounded from the disaster zone to the region's biggest hospital. On a normal year, 40 choppers land here. Now, it's 40 every day.
These helicopter rescue missions are now going on around the clock. More than 700 patients rescued just in this hospital alone.
The medics have barely slept this week. Dr. Halil, Adana's health chief, says this is the most serious situation he's ever encountered. And the hospital wards are teeming with miraculous tales.
Hello, little man.
When the quake struck, the Evci family's sixth-floor apartment crashed to the ground. Adam spent 14 hours digging with his hands to free his wife and young son from the rubble. 6-year-old Emrullah has injuries all over his small body. He tells me, it's very bad. My leg's broken. I want my school. I want my teacher. I want my cats. It's heartbreaking for his parents to hear.
We have nothing to do. There's no food, no water, no gas,
There isn't
nothing.
anything anymore.
We are stuck here for good.
The tragedy for so many across Turkey and Syria is that even though they've survived the quake, they no longer have a home to return to. Like hundreds of thousands of others throughout the disaster zone, the humanitarian crisis is now looming here, threatening to make this catastrophe even worse. Well, David, the US is now pledging $85 million for relief in Turkey and Syria. We've got 2 emergency response teams already on the ground. They've got specialist equipment. I think as we're now seeing, you've got this humanitarian crisis looming with shortages of basic necessities like food, water, and medicine. The needs are overwhelming. David?
They are desperate for help tonight. Ian, extraordinary reporting. Great to have you here on the ground with us. Thank you, Ian. Later here in the broadcast tonight, a final note from the earthquake zone and, of course, how you can help. But in the meantime, on this Friday night, we do move on to the other news back home. Breaking developments tonight involving former President Trump and former Vice President Mike Pence and the search for classified documents. Sources now telling ABC News that former President Trump's legal team recently turned over another item marked classified found at Mar-a-Lago. And agents also retrieving a current Trump aide's laptop. Here's our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, tonight.
Tonight, sources tell ABC News